Hello, my name is Jeremiah Simeon, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the end of days, end of the world, the last days on earth for mankind, but I'm here to kind of give you different ideas, different information, as this is an informational type of documentary. And I want people to think. So here we go. Basically, if everybody has read any information about different cultures in this world, you as a human being will understand that many cultures have been, I guess, extinct or could be displaced. Well, with every culture in this world, I guess when that culture has finally been either extinct or displaced, then whatever is left, the ruins that is left, is unchecked, I guess, unrecovered. Well, as many of us know, that with different cultures such as a Roman and Greek culture, we learned that these cultures had their own philosophies, had their own ideas, had their own information. And I think with every culture in this world, we do have it. It seems that in life, many people, I suppose, have to think about it. Well, if you read different cultures in this world, especially the historical point of view, you'd be able to kind of understand that each culture had almost similar characteristics that we have as humans of today. Each culture believed in an afterlife. Each culture had to provide food, had to work, provide shelter. And it seems that with the centuries that pass, our ancestors, if you want to think, started to mix with one another. If anybody ever read the Bible, then you kind of get a glimpse of the end of the world, end of days, last days on earth, or whatever exactly you call it. Okay, when you talk about the last days or the end of days or the final days, you think about all the disasters that has happened since the year 2000 started. I feel as though as a baby is born, I guess the saying goes that from the cradle to the grave. In between, a baby has to learn how to crawl. A young little child has to learn how to walk. And from there, they have to go to school and learn as much as they can. Knowledge. Knowledge is something that not every one of us want, but every one of us needs. From the knowledge to eat, drink, sleep, which is second nature type of knowledge, to the knowledge of the beginning of the human race, to knowledge of maybe fixing different vehicles, the knowledge of understanding technology, So as many people have in this year, since 2000 started till now, people have lost a lot of homes, possessions have been destroyed. We have seen more hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. We have seen so many disasters, even the forest fires. We have seen that since the 1990s started. And it seems that when the year 2000 come, it became a little bit more destructive. Well, if you think about it, and you read the last days or the revelation of John or the revelation of Jesus Christ or the whatever apocalyptic or apocalypse type of stories, different scenarios can come into mind. If you probably read, a lot of people have probably thought about, we live on a planet which is in space that orbits other planets. And basically, if you know all the planets, then you'll know that we have Mercury, Venus, Earth is the third one, then Mars and Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, if you want to call it, Neptune and Pluto. And each planet has its own global warming. Each planet has shifted, as if you think of a polar shift. Each planet has been hit by asteroids and meteorites as well. So by thinking of the last days, the final days, we could think about different scientific things that could happen. You could think about the sun shooting out solar rays, destroying the ozone layer. As humans, we are destroying the ozone layer anyway. And that will make it difficult for us to go outside to enjoy, I guess, nature, or Mother Nature has. Well, another type of scenario that could happen would be a black hole entering our galaxy. You could think of as another scenario as having a supervolcano erupt, which is more than one we have on this earth. Or you could think of whatever natural disasters that can come, which, like I said before, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes. And we as humans had a chance to see what a tsunami looks like, which destroyed part of India, Sri Lanka, and some of the other smaller islands around Asia. Well, I suppose other scenarios could be but before I could continue on any other scenarios, we as humans depend on a lot of technology. What if this scenario could happen, that the technology that we have could somehow turn against us, maybe destroy us, or have a way to get rid of us as humans? It is a possibility that that can happen. What if, in another scenario, we think about wars? We've had 2 world wars, and out of the destruction supposedly comes new innovation, I suppose. Or what if we have a 3rd world war, and this one maybe could destroy mankind? What if another scenario could happen? What if we unleash nuclear warfare? It used to be there were over 6 billion people. Now there are 7 billion people on Earth. These nuclear warheads could destroy over 6 or 7 billion people on this Earth. Which it can happen. So each scenario on this Earth can give you a chance to understand exactly what could happen to us as human beings. I mean, we eventually will have to die out as a culture. Here's the question. If we as a culture dies out, then who or what culture will see our remains or the remains of the planet? I mean, if you think about it, the Earth could one day become like Mars, losing its nutrients, having, or should I say not having any water, because water is supposed to be the basics of life. Well, as you can think about it, the final days on this earth could happen anytime. So what if, in another scenario, that we have a pandemic? And years ago, which was in 1918, they had a flu pandemic from birds, if anyone remembers history. And what that meant was, that meant majority of the population, which it wasn't close to 6 billion at the time, had been eliminated or destroyed or wiped out, if you want to say, which could be displaced or could have been extinct. Centuries ago, or should I say millions ago, they had dinosaurs who were on the planet. And when this asteroid hit, it destroyed everything, plunging the earth into what's called an ice age. And could that happen to us, where an asteroid can hit? Or could it happen when a meteorite could hit us and turn the waters bitter somehow, or could bring in some kind of deadly disease with it that infects the water supplies? Well, according to, like I said, the Bible itself, we as humans, some of us has read it, which this is a story that has planned out exactly how and when the days, or should I say the final days of mankind. And as we as humans think about it, I suppose that we wonder, what could the final days be like? Well, according to, like I said, according to this Bible, it talks about the 42 months of reign of one Antichrist world chancellor, if you think about it. And that is another scenario, if it's possible. Could one man from Europe come out and, you could almost say, destroy or annihilate, or should I say maybe do certain things to get rid of mankind, almost annihilate, should I say annihilate, or destroy them. Can it be possible as humans? If you think about it, years ago, it seemed possible. When you have Hitler, when you had Mussolini, when you had Julius Caesar, as well as Napoleon. Some people think that it is impossible for one person to rule the earth. But we as humans, I suppose, either we turn a blind side or we don't want to think twice about it. I think that without the knowledge that we have, without trying to understand our circumstances, especially when it comes to global warming as well, and that is another scenario that can happen. What if the earth heats up so fast? As stated in the Bible, it says that the angels have power to scorch men on earth. What if so happened, since our ozone layer was depleted and there's no way for us to go to work, there was no way for us to pay bills, there was no way for us to eat, we could die of starvation. It is possible. Is it possible that some people have the ability to go deep into our subconscious mind? Or is it possible for us as humans, or some humans, to be able to find out, or some of us know, what the end of the final days is? I suppose with every culture that died out, was annihilated, I suppose that that was the end of days, or the final days for them as human beings. I suppose the question would be is, can we as humans learn from our past? Is it possible? Or is it impossible? Or are we doomed to repeat the past? If you think about it logically, we're supposed to move on. I mean, we have moved on as humans, especially when it comes to technology. I suppose the question is there anything new under the sun? Are we the only race that have, or that seem to have, new technology? Did the other cultures seem to possess it some way, somehow? And we as humans don't know, or maybe we can't find evidence of it. Well, as you also think about other things besides the final days, think about the natural disasters we have. Which, when someone dies, if you think about it, especially when you're older, the elderly as well, when you die, that is possibly the end of days for you as a human being. And I suppose if you have a chance to watch my other documentaries, which is mostly informational documentaries, you kind of find out I do talk about a little bit about the afterlife, which is called Beyond the Grave. So, I suppose in this life, every one of us goes through crossroads. And within these crossroads, we have to make choices. I think as human beings we have to make a lot of choices, which is hard. If you've seen in the news or the media, or maybe on some documentary, or could be cable or satellite television, even if you rent a documentary, could be from any movie rental place, you have seen that mankind has been fighting battles, or in other words, been protesting. I suppose the question is as we protesting, do we believe in that? And I suppose the answer should be yes, if you are protesting for something. If it is right, then it's something you should believe in. Even if you're an activist, which you should believe in certain things, you will have a chance to, I suppose, understand a little bit more in this world. We should. We find out we don't. Or should I say some people don't. So let me kind of read, like I said, certain sections of this Apocalypse Revelations. As you kind of get into the beginning, you can kind of see that Jesus, or who supposedly inspired the writers to write, says that I am Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end, which is, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty. Also, you might be able to read a little section where I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, who thou seest, write in a book and send it unto the 7 churches. At that time, I guess at that certain section, they have 7 churches. Basically, if you think about it now, supposedly the 7 churches could be the 7 continents on this earth. But like I said, this is for you, the viewers, to kind of decide exactly. When you read any book, if you're the writer, then you know exactly what you mean. But as the reader, you have to interpret what the writer thinks, what the writer is trying to say. Well, as it goes on, it talks about I am he that lived and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of hell and of death, which is supposed to be the second death. And some people in this world have many beliefs, and there's many religions out there. I suppose the question is do people really believe that there is only one God? See, our culture centuries ago, or it could be many centuries ago, people believed in many different gods. If you, like I said, if you read some historical books, if you've seen documentaries, people. Okay, with many beliefs come many stories. And some of us probably heard the stories of Gilgamesh in Babylon, and probably Zeus in Greek cultures. And I think many people who have told many stories do believe in a flooding, that this earth was flooded centuries ago. Depend on the flood, I suppose. I guess it would depend on how would one person or many people or one's version of what's part of the earth was flooded, or was the whole earth flooded at one time? Well, with all these different stories, I suppose that some truth is within it. Think about this. When a writer writes, as well as I'm a writer myself, when I write stories, some of my stories have some truth in it. Or in other words, is when I write some stories, I usually do a lot of research on the story that I'm writing. And I may have a lot of information from the past that incorporates in the story. And with each story that I write, or with each story that a writer writes, some truth is always added. Or in other words, even if you have some characters, sometimes if you just, as a reader, read the story, you'll probably be able to pick out one character that has certain similarities that the writer has, which is possible. Okay, to kind of finish up, as I was reading, according to the story in Revelations, or the Apocalypse of John, or Revelation of Jesus Christ, or whatever you want to call it, Jesus is telling John about the reward he has with him in this book. And if you think about it, he's talking to these 7 churches. And with each one, he talks about what is the reward. So, to this first church of Euphrates, the thing said that he had hold the 7 stars in the right hand, who walked in the midst of the 7 golden candlesticks. I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience, and how thou cannot not bear them which are evil. And thou hast tried them which said that they are apostles, and found and are not, and hast found them liars, or found them to be false. And has bore in haste patient, and for my name's sake has labored, and has not fainted. Nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. Remember, therefore, when hence thou art fallen, and repent and do the first works, or else I will come upon thee quickly, and will remove the candlestick out of his place, except thou repent. But this thou hatest the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. He that hath an ear, let him hear from the Spirit said unto the churches. Okay. For each church, like I said, they had each different rewards. I know thy works for the church of Samaria. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blaspheme of them which says that they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, and ye may be tried. And ye shall have tribulation 10 days, but thou faithful until death, and I will come, give thee a crown of life. And then to another church called Pergamos. I know thy works where thou dwellest, even where Satan sits is. And thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied the faith. even in those days within here. Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you where Satan dwelleth. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that holds the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So like I said, from each church, they had each individual rewards. Well, throughout the story, it talks about the angels, the creatures, the living creatures, which are angels. Then they talk about the 7 bowls, the 7 trumpets, and the 7 vials that come upon mankind. Within there, it talks about a beast. But before then, we get to a place where it's in the section about the thunder. And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voice, and I was about to write them down, I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, seal up those things which the 7 thunders uttered, and write them not until it's supposed to be a specific time. Then it goes through by saying, like I said, through the beast, which has 10 horns, 7 heads. 10 horns meaning the 10 kingdoms. 7 heads, which is the 7 rulers of the world. Well, according to the story, they have one man which is called the Antichrist, or the world chancellor, or the evil doer that comes in and that proclaims peace and signs this treaty for 42 months, but then breaks it. Breaks this treaty. The question is it possible? As I said before, is it possible for one man or one woman to come to power? Basically, most of the rulers that they have were men. But is it possible, as centuries down the line, could it be a woman that eventually becomes the world chancellor or the Antichrist or this evil doer? Well, by thinking as hard as a person can without getting a migraine, you could think that we live, like I said, on a planet as a rock. And every planet in this solar system, and there's many solar systems, because now they have found planets which sustain life. They did find a planet which is a water world planet, which is a planet nothing but water. And they have found planets that have a lot of gas giants planets, something like Jupiter, which probably may sustain life. I think as you read documentaries, see documentaries, read information, it could be information from books on the internet, mankind, or should I say some of the scientists, are trying to find a way for us to leave the planet and move into or inhabit another one. They have found that one of the moons of Jupiter, which I think is called Titan, if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong, but one of the moons that they could inhabit. Some thought maybe Mars could be inhabitable somehow, some way. A lot of people in the world probably have watched a lot of science fiction films, maybe read science fiction stories. Could be comics, it could be short stories, could be novelists or short novels or full-length novels. And it seems that that cannot happen, but nowadays it seems that it can happen. So many people have to think. Okay, if anybody had a chance to watch some documentaries, some people have noticed the Mayan calendar ends December 21st, 2012. Some people think that this means that it was the end of civilization, or it is the end of civilization, or it could be the end of civilization at that time. Some people think in 2018 we will have what's called a pandemic. Now it could be something that Mother Nature or this earth can come up with, or mostly it, if you think about it on 100% scale, probably 85%, which would be man-made plague. Could be a man-made plague. It could be somebody who inhabit some type of virus or bacteria, which could be coughing, sneezing, and it could come out. Some people think April 13th, 2026, Apophis, who is supposed to come at least close to the earth but not hit it, and it would depend on how close it could get, and then which that is a Friday, and then April 13th, 2036, which is a Sunday, Apophis is supposed to hit the earth. So I suppose when it comes to the final days of mankind, anything is possible. Anything can happen. The question is are we ready for that? Are we preparing ourselves for that final day? Are we thinking that maybe it's not going to happen? But think about this, people. Different civilizations have died or have been extinct, annihilated, or a lot of them have been wiped out, if you want to say, in existence. But they have left their temples, which could be in Egypt, it could be in Mexico, it could be any structure, which is in, they have certain structures in Europe that has been there for centuries. I suppose the question is with all of the information that we have on this earth, is it possible for us to find another planet for us to move to? Is it possible for us to even come up with some idea, or some little, could be a little small ship of some sort that can nudge the meteorite the other way? What about asteroids if it hit us? Is there any way for us to be prepared? I guess the question is how can someone be prepared for natural disasters? That's the question. I think as humans, it's hard for us to prepare ourselves for a natural disaster if we don't know exactly if it's coming. It's kind of hard to detect earthquakes. It's a little easy to detect hurricanes. It's a little hard to detect tornadoes. You never know exactly where tornadoes and earthquakes can hit. Exactly. So I think scientists, different meteorologists are trying to put together certain information for us as humans to find out exactly when, where it's going to hit, the exact month, day, and year it's going to hit. But eventually, it comes down to us as humans. Are we prepared? Are we prepared if a natural disaster hit? What if some natural disaster hit? Are we prepared to maybe grow our own food? Are we prepared to not be able to watch television or have books to read? Are we prepared to live in a world that our ancestors used to live in, where they had to grow their own food? They had to find supplies, water. Then another scenario could be, what if Armageddon, or what if some natural disaster, or what if the apocalypse or something happened and there are people still left on earth? How are they supposed to survive? I suppose those questions probably is hard for us as humans to answer, but it's not impossible for us. So that is why we as humans need to think about our situations. I mean, people might think that money can solve a lot of problems. People might throw out ideas that we should grow more trees to help our environment, or we cannot throw a lot of trash. We should recycle. But eventually it will come down to, even if we do all these things, is it possible for us as humans to not destroy something? If you think about it, we almost like locusts. If you think about a locust, a swarm of locusts, they destroy everything that's in their path. We as humans sometimes do that. Is it possible for us to learn from our mistakes, to try to get it right somehow, and to teach our young babies and children that in the long run, somebody has to do something. A group of people can't do it by themselves. We as humans need to do it together.